we have been doing these parent sessions for I think the past 2-3 months, and we hope that it will be of use because it helps parents share their experiences and their journeys. And the participants are welcome to ask more questions, whatever they have, whatever doubts. I mean, who better than a parent to answer your questions? So, okay, over to you, Shefali. You can start your presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot, Lalita, for the kind introduction. So, friends, I'm here to share my journey. You know, I am a parent myself, and my journey is still ongoing. So, I am not an expert. I am going to be totally sharing my experience so far, my own journey of learning, unlearning. I learned a lot from the other users of Avaz, other parents, who encouraged me to use Avaz. So I would be very happy to share my own personal experiences with everybody. So I will start. We had relocated to Bangalore in the year of 2016, and my son had taken admission in Kara for Kids. Kara for Kids, the head of speech section was Prija Balan, and she had encouraged me to take Avaz. That was the first time I had heard about AAC. All right, and my son that time had need-based communication. He could convey all his needs, what he wanted to eat, where he wanted to go, and what he wanted to play. Very basic communication. And before this, in Delhi, we were doing ABA therapy, and we had also done some speech therapy. So as a result of those therapies, he had got the basic communication. But the challenges with Agastya were that he was able to communicate only with me and his father because his articulation was poor. The speech clarity was poor, as well as the volume of speech was very low. So he was mostly speaking with me and his father. And we thought that probably with time this will get better, he will be more confident, and we were working on the articulation targets, the clarity piece. So we thought it will get better with time. And Agastya was able to read well at that time. So when Prija made me purchase Avaz, in school they were using it to teach various concepts. And I thought, okay, since Agastya can read, let me introduce the core words communication board, which is a preloaded communication board in Avaz, as many of you would have seen. So, surprisingly, it did not work at all for me in that initial phase. Agastya did not take any interest in using that board. And I also was finding it extremely complicated to carry it whenever he needed anything, because carrying an iPad in hand is always not so easy. So, and because of Agastya's lack of interest, we somehow dropped. We moved on. We thought that, okay, it's not for us right now. Let school use it. And I stopped using it at home. And but I had got very interested and intrigued by an AAC app. So I kept my research on. And during the research, I found that an AAC app is the best prompting tool. And anybody who has here done speech therapy or ABA therapy would know that we teach the child through prompting, in speech, whether, we are teaching, if a child is very new to therapy, whether we are teaching the child labeling, this is an apple, or the apple as a fruit, all that is very, very, all that is taught through prompting method, and then we fed the prompt. But what happens when human beings prompt, like for example, when my son was 2 years old and I was teaching him that this is an apple, what is this? And so I would bring my own flavor to it, because my child will show, if he showed less interest in what I was saying, then, I would say, oh, Agastya, look, this is an apple. Agastya, look here, so I was adding so much more to it. As compared to an AAC device, if in Avaz I put a photo of apple and it is saying, you press the button and it says this is apple, then there is no extra variation to it. The pitch is same, the modulation is same, and there is no extra talk around it. So the research showed that whenever you are teaching using prompt through any AAC medium, it is much easier to fade. So that got me very interested, and I thought that, okay, let me give it another try. And another challenge we were facing was that we were doing speech therapy in Delhi, and when we relocated to Bangalore, we realized that All the SLPs here also started working on the same targets, which was labeling, picture description, sequencing, story retelling, and that had become extremely mundane. The child was interested. He used to throw a lot of tantrums in each session, and it was very frustrating for me because we live in Bangalore. The traffic, everybody knows, is crazy. To reach a center for session used to take us 45 minutes, and 45-minute session, 30 minutes used to go away in controlling behavior. So it was extremely frustrating, and we were not making any progress. For that almost 1.5, 2 years, we were stuck at the same level, which was need-based communication. So around that time, in one of the local Bangalore WhatsApp groups, somebody forwarded Smriti Rajesh's video, where she had shown how her child used to use Avaz. So that made a lot of sense to me, and I got extremely interested in that again. And this time I reintroduced Avaz to my son, but the difference I did this time was that I introduced it with his personal pictures. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, my Avaz screen with you. So if you will see, my son, I will take you to the play folder.
Play.
My son used to play with marbles, for example. So
Marble.
In this marble play, I introduced the concept of quantity, and I used to ask him how many marbles you need. So I added a teaching concept to it. And my son used to, he still loves playing with balls. So I added all possible ball pictures. If you will see, then I have named all the balls.
Teddy bear ball.
Teddy bear ball, tennis ball, medium plane balls, decathlon balls, football, very small printed balls. So all that was adding to his speech repertoire. He started saying these words. Earlier it was only that I want to play with balls. Then he started telling me that I want to play with teddy bear balls today, or I want 2 tennis balls. So his speech, we were expanding speech from his current level. And in this, I also then gradually added the playtime concept. As many of you would know that our kids keep asking for the same things over and over again. So this was my first step in teaching him self-regulation. And I told him that you are going to be getting playtime after all your sessions, which was Anjana ma'am session or the Rajita ma'am session, piano session, or in the morning when you wake up, you will get play sessions. So it became very methodical. He started following this routine. And a lot of extra times which he used to take to play, they got controlled. And then after that, I added where. Like in my house, sometimes he would want to go to terrace and play. Sometimes he would want to play in basement. So if you will see through all the boards, we were expanding speech. When he was earlier communicating, it was only that I want to play with balls. But now he was telling that I want to play with small printed balls and I want to play in basement. And my playtime is after Anjana ma'am class. So we were increasing and expanding speech.
Bubbles.
So if you see in my bubbles folder, he loves playing with bubble guns. I taught him that, okay, now the battery is finished. So he would come to me if the bubble gun will stop working. He will say, please check battery finish, or he will say solution finish, because it was very easy for him to figure out if the bubble solution had finished. So everywhere it was getting expanded.
Alternate play.
And as many of you would know that our kids have very limited interests. So in my son's case, in Agastya's case, I introduced different songs, like I introduced Hindi songs.
Hindi songs.
And I put boards of all this. So he loved watching Chum Chum. So instead of just coming and saying TV on, he started telling me that I want to watch Chum Chum song. Please play TV. So from his current level, we were expanding all the time. English songs.
English songs.
Agastya is a big fan of George Michael, Backstreet Boys. So I could introduce all these concepts. Like Cheap Thrills is his favorite song. So we could get a lot of progress from the level we were stuck at. And this prompt was easier to fade. YouTube videos, for example. He loves watching water park videos. That is his favorite pastime these days in COVID times. So instead of haggling that, he will come and just show me if he is not able to say it clearly. So, because still sometimes I struggle to understand what he has said.
TV shows.
So if you see, I'm adding more to it every time, because as he is growing up, his needs are increasing, and he is a Bear Grylls fan. And instead of just fighting with me that which episode of Bear Grylls I should put, he will come and tell me that, okay, I want to watch Akshay Kumar episode or Narendra Modi episode or Rajnikant episode. Likewise, he loves watching Crown, Homeland. So it has become much easier. We are able to add more to the language. And as a result of which, his behaviors got controlled. He was feeling extremely frustrated because a lot of times he will come to me saying something and I wouldn't understand what he's saying. And that used to make him very frustrated. I will also like to show you my food folder. So
Food.
Before this, he would say that I want to eat this. Then I started adding more to it.
Chewing gum.
Agastya loves to eat different kind of chewing gum. So, we could converse around it, which one you want. If you see on the right hand side, there is counting how many chewing gums he wants, because sometimes he will take 2, sometimes he will take 3. And if, for example, Trident is over, then I will say, Agastya, Trident has finished. Then we could talk around it. He will use go to folder and he will tell me, go to the village shop. There is a village very close to my locality. So he will say, go to that shop. He had started noticing that which chewing gum is available at Mango Hypermarket, which chewing gum is available at Grand City. We were able to improve cognition also.
Money.
And in this, I also added concepts like money. I started telling him, Agastya, 1 Trident is for 5 rupees. You have to give me money. And whether you will do addition, division, we were able to use Avaz for a lot of generalization. And by this time, the research which I had done and figured out that it is very easy to fit prompt via device vis-a-vis a human prompt, human verbal prompt, that had got confirmed, because I had stopped carrying Avaz. Like, he had got very comfortable in telling me that he wants to play on terrace and his play time and how many balls he needs. So I would hide iPad in those situations, and I saw that he was telling me without using Avaz. But obviously for our kids, sometimes they fall sick. It is, a step backward. So whenever he would forget that, I will again reintroduce that same board to him again for a brief period of time. And it again, I would say that it helped us in controlling behaviors, because as he was growing up, his speech demand, his language demand was going up. So just that very basic, I want to eat this or I want to play with this, was not enough for him. So this Avaz was really helping us in meeting that need. And I kept continuing my research on Avaz, on AAC devices basically. And there are two set of groups which I came across. One set of group feels, the research group says that any AAC device helps the child in moving from step A to step B, whereas the second set of group feels that it should be a last resort. All right, and I am a parent, I have no idea, and I know that all these researches are extremely new. All right, so I to simplify it in my head, I thought of a situation, hypothetical situation, and in that I assume that what if, God forbid, my leg breaks, and if doctor tells me that, okay, again, so what should I do? Should I just keep sitting on bed thinking that one fine day magic will happen and I would be able to walk again? Or I should first encourage, I muster up the strength to use a wheelchair. And once I am able to use a wheelchair independently, I should start walking with a stick. So in my life, I thought that, okay, I should, take it more seriously and understand the significance of it, rather than thinking about AAC should be used, should not be used with a verbal child. I got rid of all those thoughts the moment I thought of this example, because it made complete sense to me. If any of you, hypothetically assume a situation like this, you would know that the answer to that would be to use a support and to work rather than just sitting at one place and hoping for the best. And another thing I was realizing in my son's case was that because of using of Avaz, his anxiety levels had really reduced. When my son was, his problem was diagnosed, he was 22 months old. And when he was about 4 years old, by the time, I think all I was doing in those 2 years was to take him for an assessment to a doctor or to a therapist, or to take him for various therapies. And that had made him extremely anxious. I had realized that whenever I would even take him to a relative's house, a known house to him, he would feel extremely nervous and anxious, and he would not want to go in the house. And that went away after, a few vacations. And I realized that when we do regular speech therapy, we put a lot of expectations pressure on our child. So there is an anxiety of performance. Child understands that he or she has to perform. All right, so that really got reduced with the support of Avaz. So when we say the child's basic right to communication, then this is what we mean, that the child has a problem. That is why he or she is not able to communicate. So we should use something like this, which we are using as a support tool. It in any way does not mean that we are replacing our regular speech therapy or ABA therapy or RPM or any other therapy which we are doing to help our child, that we are stopping that and using Avaz. We are continuing all that. In my life, not even a single therapy has been stopped after introducing Avaz. And now I would like to bring you, to share with you two instances which happened in my life. In 2018, my daughter was sick, and then my son Agastya was sick and I didn't realize, I have no family support in Bangalore, that for about 10-12 days I had barely slept. And one of these days, early morning, I had a seizure for the first time in my life because of extreme fatigue and lack of sleep. And that was a very, very emergency situation. My husband rushed me to hospital, and I was unconscious that whole day. I came back to my consciousness only in the evening. And my son and my younger twins, they were in the house with a new helper staff. That girl was very new. She did not understand how to deal with Agastya. And my husband could not come home at all that day. The situation was so critical. And when I got discharged from the hospital after 3 days, I came back home, and I was extremely pleased to know from my helper staff that in my absence, Agastya used Avaz with them to communicate. Agastya wanted to eat. One second, I'll just share my screen once again. Agastya wanted to communicate that he wanted to eat. He wanted to eat French fries. So, and Agastya knew that in the freezer there were frozen French fries lying. So Agastya went to the McDonald's folder, in the restaurant folder. He showed her French fries, and then there was a cooking folder in my device in Avaz. He showed her that, and he went to make folder.
Make.
And he showed her fry papad. There is a fry papad folder. So he showed her fry word from there. Now I have fry frozen French fries folder. That time I didn't have. And then another instance was that she served him tea, and Agastya wanted to eat cake rusk. So he went to the food folder.
Places to eat.
And he went to Chai Point, and he showed her cake rusk from here. So, it's a very simple example, and he was happy in those 3 days. It's not that he was crying or whining or feeling frustrated, because first time in his life, he was not attended by either me or my husband. He was able to communicate all his needs to that new person in the house, all right, without any difficulty. So when I came back, I was extremely pleased to hear this. And I also realized that we people, special need parents, keep thinking that what will happen to our child after us. But after us, God only knows when will happen. But in short term also, emergency situations can come up. So it's very important that we prepare our child for that. So that really reaffirmed my faith in an AAC device, that I am catering to my child's basic right here. Another example, very, very important, I would like to share, which happened somewhere around that time only, within 2 months of that one of these nights, though I have taught Agastya, when he's not feeling well, that what illness you have, or if you have any pain, what is the pain or the medicine. But one of these nights he woke up at 3 a.m. He was extremely irritated. He was not communicating. He was fighting a lot, and we were not able to understand that what does he want. I thought he has some pain, so I got him ibugesic, but he refused to take it. When he refused to take ibugesic, my husband picked up iPad and opened Avaz for him, the medicine board. In that, he chose Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer we give him whenever he has tummy problems, acidity or gas or any sort of problem. So he took that, and within 20 minutes of that, he slept. So, whatever little bit inhibitions I had in my head by, at that time, they went away, because I understood the power of an AAC device. All right. And we made Avaz an integral part of our lives after that. So whatever speech target or whatever we were teaching to Agastya, we started putting everything in the Avaz board for him. And another thing I realized, that lot of times we parents are told that your child has anxiety issues. So what causes anxiety? Like, for example, if in that night he hadn't told me, if he wasn't able to communicate to me that he needs Alka-Seltzer, then he would have cried and whined for that whatever 2 hours or 3 hours. That would have left a very, very negative mark in his head, in his memory, which he would have carried long term. So next time he would have had the same problem, he would have again cried, and he would have been very anxious. So I realized that, it's important to have some support in place. And I started feeling even more positive about Avaz. So, and after that, as I said, that we made Avaz a very integral part of our lives. And luckily, my speech and language pathologist, Anjana, she has always helped me a lot in my entire, Avaz modification and my overall speech battle. So I would like to share with you that we work with Agastya on a skill called reporting.
Reporting.
As many of you would know, that we have to improve our kids, recall power. They should be able to recall incidences, and they should be able to narrate. It helps them with overall, fluency of speech.
Chatting about my day.
So, in reporting, we basically, wherever I will go, I will click pictures, and I will come back and I will upload them in Avaz, and I will encourage Agastya to recall his experience, that where did we go, what did we do, what was the reason to go, if we bought a toy, which shop did we buy from. So all along we were expanding speech. So this is what my reporting one folder looks like, wherein at the end of every day, he will tell me that what was the date today. Today is this day, and today morning I went to school, I did online classes, and today I did, in the evening, I did Anjana ma'am class, and I went for cycling. So this was one example.
School.
Likewise, he will tell me what he did in school that day.
Places folder.
So for example, if we go to Imagica trip, then we would come back and just recall. That time I would not put a message here. I would just simply show him pictures, and he will tell, we went there, we played in wave pool, I went with my cousins, I went with my sister and brother, I went to the gift shop, I watched parade there. And for later recall, I will put later on some
going to Imagica.
Messages.
Playing in wave pool. Savior Vanya Vihan. Pictures outside the pool. Waiting for parade. In the gift shop.
So, reporting really helped him in recalling and telling what he did and why did he go. Overall, it, along with speech, it also improves child's comprehension level. And then Anjana started introducing this for story retelling.
And genre conversation. Pip Story 1.
There is a very famous Pip story on YouTube. So we showed Agastya that video, and then we left him. We obviously practiced. He told me the story verbally. Then I left him with Avaz, and he told the story through this medium himself. And once he did that, I knew that, okay, this time I haven't given any prompt. It is totally on his own that he has told a story.
Plane crash.
Another example I would like to show you that we are these days teaching him conversation, and Anjana uses a couple of topics. One of that is news. So recently there was an Air India plane which had crashed in Calicut, and we showed him that news on TV, and then he told that entire sequence of events through this, that both pilots had died and people died, plane broke into pieces, ambulance came, people went to hospital. So it is very encouraging. We are expanding speech from his current level.
Games.
Another example, which this was shared by Lalita on Avaz group. I use that. I can change it to Agastya says. Agastya says, Vanya, open the door. Agastya says, Mama, do this. This is to improve fluency, because as I said that our kids, some of them have very limited interest. So if you will see, like for example, this is the yoga board which Anjana had built. So we are using this to expand communication. And I would also like to show you my social communication board. Some of you may laugh at it because it is extremely simple, extremely limited, but I feel that we should keep our expectations, little bit realistic. So in the house right now, Agastya will tell other people apart from Mama, which is my younger twins, the Akash Bhaiya in the house, Priya, that Priya, take me to terrace.
Take me to terrace.
And I am using this because I want to encourage Agastya to speak with others. That my sickness incidents in my life again and again reminds me that I should encourage him to talk to others. So we are right now, and I have been using this board for last 4 months, and I am realizing that with time, almost 60% of the times he will have to use this board, and 40% of the times he's talking to others, like all these 4 people only, Akash Bhaiya, Priya, Vanya, and Vihan, without using this board. So that is good progress. As many of you would understand that in speech and language therapy, things are not achieved overnight. So this is my social communication board. And one last board I would like to show, which is with an idea which I got from another mother. Her name is Vandana Gautam. Which is using Avaz to do academic revision. For example, there was a chapter in his EVS, national symbols. So I made different folders in EVS, national flag, national song, and in the national song folder, I recorded Vande Matram, national anthem, I recorded Jana Gana Man, national emblem, everything. And I have realized that it is very easy to do revision through Avaz rather than, expecting a child to sit down and do revision. So this was my, journey in brief. And I would just reiterate, I'll just summarize my learnings in my Avaz journey was that I continued all my other therapies. So Avaz is not a replacement of anything in my life. So whether it is speech or special ed or RPM, anything which a parent is doing, they should continue. All right, Avaz is an extra support system in our journey. And second thing I learned was that if we take pressure away, pressure to perform away from the child, then the child is less anxious and the child learns much better. And also my learning in this is that if you connect with other mothers, other parents who have been using the same device and you exchange ideas with them, then you are able to get lot of more ideas of what else we can do, how else can we introduce more language in their lives. So this was my journey in brief. I will now hand over to Lalita to take it forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shefali. That's such an inspiring journey. Yeah, such an inspiring journey to hear. I think even your the one especially about your falling sick and how he managed to still communicate to your house help as to what exactly he wants. So sometimes we don't even realize that they're actually learning all these words until they start using it out of compulsion.
Right.
So we really grossly underestimate them until they actually start using it. So really the takeaway is that to have faith in your child and that he will learn it at some point and not give up hope at all at any way. And I really loved your example about the wheelchair. And it's so true because a lot of times parents say that, okay, oh, my child will become dependent on the device, dependent on the device. So it's a fear that everyone has that, oh, he'll never develop speech. So I mean, in Shefali's case, in Agastya's case, he's actually, it's enhanced his speech as well. And also like how she said about the wheelchair. So the choice is either that you sit back and say that, okay, I don't want to use any support. I'll just stay in the bed. Or do you want to say, I'll take the support of a wheelchair and then take on crutches and then be able to move. So it gives you that independence to be able to move and do things that otherwise you cannot do. So yeah, they were great examples. And I think all your boards were really amazing. The amount of customization you've done to actually bring everything in his life into the board, into Avaz. I think it's been really fascinating to see. And I liked all the points about expanding need-based vocabulary. So the way you put it across to say that whatever are his basic needs, try to expand on that itself. And needs and interests. So whether it's a ball and then talk about different types of balls, and then talk about where to play the ball. So it's just slowly expanding that whole construct of a sentence. Okay, so let me go over to the questions that were asked. How do you use Avaz and when to use it?
There are two aspects to the first part of the question, how to use Avaz. So I think for any new beginner, if they see Smriti Rajesh's video on YouTube, that gives a very good insight into how we should decode our child's needs. And we have to also understand that Avaz comes with a lot of preloaded communication boards. And it may work very well for some kids, but in my son's case, it did not work at all. I had to customize. So seeing Smriti Rajesh's videos, I customized the board. All right. So first part is to see that and understand that how to decode your child needs, his current level, and accordingly expand from that level. That is part one in how to use. Second part in how to use is customization, which I learned through Lalita. Lalita had conducted one of the training workshops in Bangalore. So I went there and I learned, because Avaz is extremely, extremely user-friendly. All right. So I learned, I don't know in COVID times, if they have some pre-recorded videos or whatever, Lalita would be the best person to guide. And second part was that when to use. So I would suggest that keep the targets extremely realistic and start with small targets. But, rather than bombarding the child with lot of targets, so keep 2-3 targets. Once you make progress, then maybe introduce new targets. All right, and accordingly, and always take the child's cue. Like in my son's case, I know that he's learned this. Now it's time to move on, and I am always looking and observing that, okay, what else can I add to the board? And one more thing I would like to add here is that it is very important to fade the prompt. In my case, I use Avaz as a support, as a prompting tool also. So I deliberately leave Avaz here and there. So if a child can echo all right, can repeat after us, we should encourage the child to talk also, and not carry it all the time. The child should not be made. I would again like to go back to my example of leg breaking. If I will get comfortable in the wheelchair, I would never be able to reach crutches level. And if I will get extremely comfortable in crutches, I may not be able to walk independently. So it is our job as parents to pull the child out of his comfort level and expose him to bigger, more challenges. So feeding prompt is extremely important for the kids who can verbalize. Yeah, Lalita.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So when to use it also, if you're asking from, like you can use it through the day. That's what we would suggest, to say that don't restrict it to just a therapy session or limited periods of time during the day, but you can actually find communication opportunities throughout the day. So whatever he is doing, whether it's eating, whether it's his daily routine, his activities of daily living, starting from brushing his teeth to getting ready to going to school. I mean, of course, now there's no school, but whatever is his regular routine, whether he's got online classes. So get everything, all the communication related to that into Avaz. And it's not difficult to do that at all. And get personalized Avaz so that you're having all his immediate environment all in Avaz, like how Shefali has done. Similar to that, where you have people, you have places where she's put all the people in one column. So the same way you can have all the people known to the child, and then all the places that the child is familiar with, all the things that he uses, all his plays, his play activities, toys, favorite songs, favorite TV programs. So all of that, once you get it in, and then the child gets more motivated to start using it. And you have to model it for yourself so that you show the child how to start using it.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
But when we are introducing it, if we start with child's interest, then they are more likely to respond to it.
Right.
That's
absolutely.
It happened, at least in my son's case, that I started with food and play. And when I made go to folder, it only had simple things like go to clubhouse or go to skating. Then I started making it more complex, leisure places, malls, and which other city he would like to go to, whether to Delhi or to Bombay. I started making it more and more complex.
Right. Expanding the same, whatever is his interest, you start expanding on that.
Yeah, like for example, if Trident is over, we need to go to Mango hypermarket. And if this is over, the child is thinking cognitively. We are encouraging the child to think that what is available where, and where should I go.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, that the fact that he's been able to figure out that a particular brand is available in a particular shop, able to recall and develops his memory as well.
Yeah, that's where reporting really helps. Taking pictures, videos, coming back, talking about it helps the child in recalling that. Till the time they are at a level wherein they don't need any support, to think and, recollect. Till that point, we need some help.
Right. Yeah, that's great examples. Okay. The next question is, my son is 4 years old and non-verbal. So would Avaz help me?
See, if Lalita, frankly speaking, if anybody will give me a chance to live my life again, and if I go back to the time when my son was 2 to 4, and if anybody asks me what should they do first, I will say use an AAC. Whether you use PECs or you use an AAC, give your child a way to communicate. I will like to explain that by giving an example of what my child used to do. When he was about 2.5, he wasn't able to communicate. So he will take me to the closet and he would show me, take my hand and put it on the biscuit or the chips he wanted. All right. So if, and that time I would frustrate him, because that's what I was learning in typical speech therapy, that, oh, you want biscuit. So, a lot of verbal prompt, and the child was confused. If I had a device like Avaz in my hand, then he would have told me through that, and he wouldn't have cried, he wouldn't have howled, because I would not always understand what he wants. Then I could have expanded, from biscuit to which biscuit, crack jack or Oreo, or to quantity 1 or 2, like that, whether sweet or salty. So we could have expanded a lot on that. So I think that there is no age to start an AAC device. It should be whenever child is struggling to express himself. No, doesn't matter what the age or level of the child is. From the child's level, we should use it to expand.
Absolutely. No, you hit the nail on the head. And very true that you could really have avoided all the, frustration that the child faces. And absolutely, when the child is struggling to communicate, if you find that issue is there, then absolutely start using AAC without thinking twice about, oh, will he become dependent? Will speech develop? So none of those. From what you can hear it from Shefali herself that how that has not mattered at all. In fact, it has actually helped. So yes, even 2 years, even we've had, there are parents who've reported it from like even 18 months or even like 8 months, and there's no problem. The only thing is that they are worried that the device may break, but because children are actually able to respond, and intentional communication happens when they are as old as even 6 months of age. So, 1 year itself, like 1.5 years is quite typical for people to start using AAC, low tech
Whether
or high tech.
1.5
That's not a
years or
problem.
18 years doesn't matter. We can always
Yeah.
use it as a teaching tool. Like if you see in
Exactly.
my case, I'm using it as a teaching tool and I'm expanding.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yes, it
So
really decreases child's frustration level. That is guaranteed.
that's the most important part. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The next one is, how do you make Avaz a part of my students' daily use?
See, if all the students can have access to their personal device, then that's best. But I can understand that may not be possible always. So, but but the teacher again will have to decode what the child wants to communicate in the session. Like I will show you one board again. Just give me a moment to connect through AirPlay. During the middle of the session, I would see Agastya whining and crying. So we made this board for him.
Schedule. Classes. Monday. Anjani ma'am. Anjani ma'am.
So, I basically, put this. This is a speech session he does with Anjana. And now 99% of the times when he wants class to be over, he will say, bye, class finish. But if we obviously want to buy more time because session is not over, then he will just pull Avaz out and say, bye, class finish. So this is a simple example. Or whether he wants to type, I don't want to type. And
Tuesday.
one second.
Wednesday. Rajita ma'am.
So this is, for example, his dance class. So sometimes he would want to dance on a particular dance. So, and clarity obviously is not to that level that he can communicate that I want to dance on Zubi Dubi, and we would understand. So a lot of frustration gets reduced and he is learning those words. Whether he is able to speak clearly, that is a separate problem for which we are working on. So it's very helpful if teacher is able to decode, Lalita, and
yeah,
he can then accordingly make boards.
Yeah. So even from using it for daily use, even in schools or even at home, you can talk about the weather. That's something that many people talk. It's called like circle time in the US. They discuss about the weather. So every day you can talk about what day is today. If once they get a concept of time, for those who understand, or you start teaching the concept of time and days of the week and months of the year, and then you can talk about whether it is sunny, look at outside and see whether it's sunny or rainy or windy or cold. So you can talk about what will the child wear. So if it's sunny, or you can have an ice cream, or you can have something cold, you can have cold juice. So you can expand it like that based on the context. And if it is windy, that you have to wear a jacket. If it is cold, you can wear gloves, or you can wear a sweater and socks and shoes. And so all of that you can bring into daily use. And all of these are part of either school conversations. In schools, of course, you can have different classes, and in each class, whatever is the child is using, whether it's OT or PT, whatever the child is using in those classes, you can have those items added there. And like how she said hi, bye, and good morning, good evening. So add all those conversations into the specific folders that you create for these classes. And at home, of course, you can use it from morning till the time he gets up, till from good morning till good night. You can use it for all the activities that the child does, whatever he's doing. If he's helping you with cleaning the house or cleaning the room, you can add those. You can even add it to, let's say he's doing some exercises, or he's doing running, or he's playing some games. So add all of those. You can add different folders where all his games are there. So that's how you can actually include it in the child's daily life. While eating, while watching TV, what is the kind of conversations? What all does he watch? What does he eat? So including the food, including the places that he visits, including the favorite people in his life. So all of these can be added. And that's how it becomes a part of the child's daily life. The next question is, how do you find if AAC is needed and whether it will help my child?
I think the answer to that, Lalita, is very simple. If any child is struggling or is stuck at a level, and the parent can decode that, okay, from here to move forward, the child needs to learn this, then they should use it.
Right. So basically, if they have a communication problem with speech, basically they're not able to speak. So parents are always hesitating. They always wait for speech to develop. The answer to that is, the earlier you introduce an AAC, an alternative device, like how Shefali said, if she were to roll back her life when the child was 2 to 4 years old, she said she would by all means start off with AAC instead of waiting. And typically people would like to wait because something new and nobody's seen it really happening in India. In the Western world, it has been there since I think 1975. So it's been there like 50 years. And people get to know what AAC is all about and how it can actually benefit the child. But here in India, we haven't seen that happen. And this is, Avaz is actually the first AAC app in India. So we've not seen role models of that before. So we really don't know what to expect. So people are definitely, even I would be concerned about, like, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right choice? Am I going to inhibit my child's speech? And there's so many concerns that come into people's head. So the thing is that if you allow the child to not use, so what happens if the child doesn't use AAC? It results in a lot of anxiety and behavior issues, like how Shefali is also mentioning, simply because of the frustration at their inability to communicate. And if you leave that, then the frustration becomes more deep rooted, and the child loses faith in himself. It results in so much of loss of self-esteem, independence, all of that. It really takes a beating on the child's self-worth, which is very difficult after that for it to get back. So it affects his emotional state, his cognition, his social, his behavioral, all of this gets affected if you leave it unattended. That is, the ability to communicate, if he's not given a chance to communicate and express himself through any other means. It can be pictorially, it can be low tech, it can be high tech, but some means has to be there. And if that's not given, then it does result in a regression of cognitive, of social, because he's not able to then have a conversation with other peers or even with people around him. And then emotional, because he does feel that terribly that nobody understands him, and he feels down and depressed and would get into a lot of behavior issues as well. So these are the downsides of not introducing Avaz early enough. So, the earliest is, of course, 1.5 years, you can start introducing AAC without a worry that it's going to hamper anything or going to affect the child negatively. Okay, I hope that's answered your questions. Where to start Avaz for my child and how to use it properly. Yeah, so I guess that's the same. It's a repeat of the same one. So those who've asked for how to get customization idea videos, it is there on our website. But then you can actually take a look at our website. There is a support page, and it has a bunch of FAQs, that is frequently asked questions. And if you search on it, you will find a lot of questions answered, which includes how do I do customization. And customization is really, really simple in Avaz. In fact, we've ensured that it's really quick to customize.
So for example, if I have to add a song here, I go to edit, add new. I can choose a category. A category is a folder. If I have to add a song, I will simply go and write Last Christmas. And then I will go to web, and it will give me, if I write George Michael, it will give me the exact picture. Or I can go to my own camera, take picture. Or I can go to my camera roll and choose a picture and just save it. And likewise, we can add a new category, which is a folder. Just go here and just, you can choose add a songs folder. It's very simple. And one very important feature is, which I use with Agastya, that if he has achieved something in speech, I go and I hide it. So the violin song is disappeared from the board. So that's very important to keep hiding. Yeah, Lalita.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's also an option for the web search.
Yeah.
So you can also, so that's something that you'll find very useful, that you can tap the web button and it will fetch you all the photographs that are there on the website from a Google search. And they'll also be copyright free. They're not copyright protected, so you can use that freely. So that's how you can do customization, and you can start initially with like about with the child's favorite foods, like you said, and then start with requesting and getting the child. So the way is that you show it to the child, and that's how the child learns to say it himself, right? Shefali, isn't that how you used it as well? Otherwise the child will not learn what pictures are there.
Yeah. True.
So you kind of model what the child is supposed to say. So you say, okay, so this is the chips one. So you model it for him. That means you do it so that the child observes you doing it. And that's how the child learns. So, or do you want chips? And then you tap the want button and tap the chips button. So then you can say, I want chips, or you want chips. And then so slowly expand it to add I, and then say want, and then chips. So slowly from just showing chips, then you expand it to want chips, then you expand it to I want chips, or you want chips. And as you speak it, you tap the word so that the child is also able to follow what you're doing in front of the child. If you do it, child is able to follow what you're doing, and then he will learn to do it himself. And as she said, when the time comes and when he wants to express himself, they will express themselves, which actually takes you by surprise. Yeah. So in fact, there are very interesting ways by which it has been used as well. And in fact, one of the parents was saying she had gone to take her child for a test, an EEG or an ECG, one of those. And they had actually prepared the child in advance to say that, okay, this is what is going to happen. And so don't worry, you'll be fine. So, but when they went there, and she had Avaz with her all the while, even in the testing center. When they went there, the child suddenly came running out of the room, and then he's like all agitated, and he came and grabbed his mother's iPad, and then he went straight into the pain folder, and then he went into body thing, and then he said, it's paining, and then he said, my hair is being pulled. So he was able to express himself simply because it was available to the child at that point of time. Otherwise, imagine that it would have been a complete communication meltdown, breakdown of communication, and the child would have had a meltdown, because if he didn't have a way to express himself at that point of time, it would have really had a very difficult time for the child. So that was one. Another one is a parent who was able to use Avaz for getting a child to actually make sandwiches. She said she had actually put the pictures in Avaz, just the sequence of how to make sandwiches, because our daughter was quite old. She's a 20-year-old girl, and she likes to cook. So she thought, okay, I have to go out, so let me just add the pictures and then tell her how to do it. So she just put it in a sequence, and the child had then learned followed the sequence and had actually put it together. And when she came back, she was like so surprised that she had followed it so well that she could actually make the sandwich and do it. And after that, she started loading more and more recipes in Avaz for the child, for the girl to learn. And also another interesting one was where Chitra's son, Tarun, Chitra Paul, her son Tarun, he was using it for his glasses. They had gone for an eye checkup. So during the eye test, whatever they were saying over there, he was able to, tap the alphabets in Avaz for the eye test when they say what word are you able to see, right? He was quickly able to use the Avaz keyboard to tap the alphabets that he was able to see. So it was, and he did it independently without the mother being present. She said, I wasn't even there in the picture. Between him and the doctor, they communicated, and they finished the testing through Avaz. So yeah, these are a few of the inspiring examples. So yeah, any other questions? Does anyone has any questions to ask? A few more, sorry. Details of your Rejection. Okay, can you share details of your rejection and opinion folders? Sonia is asking.
One second.
Sorry, Sonia, I missed this earlier. So Sonia has also said, I've added many options under each folder, but my child gets confused. He's not able to choose properly and point out perfectly. So maybe you can hide a few options and then introduce a few at a time, Sonia, if that may help.
Rejections.
Somebody had told me, I think it was Vandana Gautam, that teaching rejection is extremely critical.
It's very important. Absolutely. No, rejection is very important because you're giving the child the chance, you're empowering the child the chance to say, protest, to say that something he doesn't want. Otherwise, we're always just giving, I mean, where does he get a chance to say, no, I don't want it, and express his opinion and his preference? So that's, it's a very important, it's very empowering because the child then gets to know that he has a voice, he has a say in something that matters to him. So it is very important early on.
He would lot of times start crying instead of saying it.
Correct, correct.
He would tell me most of the times that I don't want to do it or I whatever.
Exactly.
But he, in difficult situations, he would choose to cry.
Exactly, because they have no other way to express it, they end up crying. So maybe they just want to say no. Maybe they just want to say no, I don't want to do it. But because they're not able to express themselves in any other way, they end up crying. So it's a very powerful one to bring.
Yeah, and opinion folder as was requested.
Opinion.
This is totally, Anjana's recommendation. These days we are showing a lot of news pieces to Agastya and teaching him to talk around that. Like, for example, I will give you the Sushant Singh Rajput's case. Ever since the day, he has died, we have been showing him the little snippets of that news, whether it was Riya Chakravarti being jailed. And, so opinion folder was made by Anjana, wherein she is teaching him that he should share his opinion. News, whether it is a good news or it is a bad news. So we are expanding language through this medium.
Right.
And teaching him things like, I feel it is sad. The other day there was a sad news, but Agastya found it funny. So then, Anjana had to correct it that, okay, it's not funny, it is sad news.
Okay. Can you show the opinions folder again?
Yeah. One second, it takes a while.
So Sonia has also said he is not even able. Okay, yeah. So there is yes, no, I understand, I don't understand, I don't know, not sure, sometimes maybe. So these are all like responses basically. And on the right hand side, you have some adjectives.
Adjectives is a very interesting thing I would like to share. One of the days Anjana had sent me a video wherein she was eating a porridge and she had recorded it and saying that it is milky, it is hot. Then after that, we used a video of frying puris and she taught him the word fluffy around it. Then I recorded a video of my twins, they were eating chips. And through that video, we taught him what crunchy is. Because a lot of times, our kids would start to say it's crunchy, but we could teach him there. And then we taught him to describe food every time he would eat something. Yeah, and we saw that this medium he picked up very well. Now Anjana is teaching him people adjectives, animal adjectives, whether a person is good, fat, thin. A lot of that expansion we are able to do.
Very nice. These are really good ways to show, like within the people, within the food folder, all these adjectives. Interesting. Okay, so Sonia says he's not even able to choose properly between yes and no. So Sonia, each of these concepts need to be taught separately, like even no or not or don't. Each of the rejections, they have to be taught with examples for each of them. So even if you look into our support page, so there is a way by which you can teach yes, no concepts, how to do things. So there is one more in our website. It's called How Do I Start Using Avaz, which is actually, it's got a lot of things that it's at the higher level, bunch of how to do things in Avaz, how to teach various concepts. So it's basically how do I start using Avaz, and has a lot of concepts in that. One more question from Shweta Muneshwar. My child is 4.2. Need-based communication, verbally but not expressive, and lack of language. Can I teach language and expression with the help of Avaz?
Yeah.
Shefali, yeah, you want to take it?
Yeah, as you know, if you will see Smriti Rajesh's videos, you will see how she had decoded her child's needs. So if you watch that, you can decode the child's need and start with very simple, communication board, and then keep making it more complicated. So if you make a food folder and a play folder and whatever your child's interest is, if you will just create a structured system in your Avaz device, then you can accordingly teach your child.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does help in, so even if there is not expressive enough, it will definitely help in expanding the expressive language and language development, because of the audio output that is there. It helps them actually to start verbalizing. And also the way you actually model Avaz, so you can start using it the way you want to start talking to your child. The more you use it and the longer you make it just one word more than what the child is using it to begin with. So if the child, you want to just tap, let's say, chips, and then you tap want chips, and then you tap I want chips, and that's how you slowly start building language for the child. And the child will learn it. As the more he sees you using it, the more he will pick it up. So let me put it here. So Sonia, I put it on the chat window. You're not able to see it because you've asked for it again. How to start using Avaz, it's on the chat window. But I'll put it here anyway in the quick Q&A window again. Have you got it? Links on how to use Avaz. So there is a demo. Okay, I'm just sharing this, how to get started with Avaz. Harsha Shah. You can also look for in our demo. Yeah, thanks, Sonia. So in our website, you can look for Avaz demo as well. It will give you how to use Avaz and the various features that it has. I hope you got the answer. Expressive language, Anjana. Okay, from Anjana Satyabodha. Oh, Anjana is attending, is it?
Yeah, Anjana is attending.
Okay, that's nice to know. Expressive language. So to the rest of you all, Anjana is a speech therapist who's actually her speech therapist who's been guiding her. And she's done a wonderful job, Anjana. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so she says expressive language is not only about the length of sentences, it's also about the content, the kind of vocabulary the child uses. Avaz is very useful to accomplish this. Great. Okay, any other questions?
I think one of the people want to see the behavior folder. Priya, I will just share my screen and show behavior folder.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
Behavior folder has helped me a lot.
Show details of all folders, they're saying, one of them.
I think that Lalita, you can do, maybe, you have my backup. So behavior folder.
Behavior.
Like a lot of times I will see that my son will start crying in the middle of a session, especially because all school classes are happening online. And I read somewhere, I and Anjana, we both read somewhere that a lot of times our kids do things which they're not even self-aware about, that why are they doing? They will just do it. So then, I started teaching Agastya that today my behavior is aggressive.
Aggressive.
And
behavior.
And then I would also make him choose that pinching mama.
Pinching mama.
or biting myself.
Biting myself.
And I realized that when I will show him, make him choose from this folder, he immediately settled down, because he realized in that moment that he was doing something. Maybe he didn't have control over himself or whatever, but he was doing something and he wasn't aware what he was doing.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Shefali. Thanks for a very enlightening and inspiring journey that you've shared, and all the techniques that you have been using that has been helpful for you. A big thanks to you, and thank you, participants, for joining us today and for sparing your time for this. I hope you all found it useful. A majority of them have said they are extremely likely to recommend the session. So thanks so much. If you have any feedback, please do let me know. We'll be happy to take it for the next session.
Thank you.
I hope you all found it useful. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shefali, and thanks, Anjana, for joining.